Appeals to order. If you have a cell phone, please silence it or turn it off. Our first order, you want to save the election until the end? We got this is not really a variance request, is it? Oh, approval of minutes.
Yeah.
First and the second, please. Approval of minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Variance, it says variance request. It's not a variance request, is it? It's an appeal. Appeal of a decision by ZV 3953, appeal of a decision by the planning manager, 135 Sinclair Plantation Drive, St. Simons Island. I'm not going to read the whole thing. We know what it is. Ms. Leaf.
Good morning, Board of Appeals member, Stephanie Leaf, Planning Manager. So this project that's before you today is actually an appeal of a decision of the Planning Manager. So it was an appeal of one of the decisions that I made, and I was acting as a designee of the Community Development Director. So the application is ZV 3953, and the parcel that this appeal pertains to is 135 Sinclair Plantation Drive. This is on St. Simons Island, and this is off of Lawrence Road. This is a new mouse, so we'll see if I can use this. Is it? Oh, is it the other one? Okay. Okay. All right, this works better. Okay, thank you. So this is an appeal of a decision made by the planning manager pertaining to a detached garage barn located at 135 Sinclair Plantation Drive on St. Simons, and the parcel number is 0410329. The applicants had applied for a variance regarding this garage, and after the staff reviewed the application for the variance, staff did not feel that it met the requirements to be forwarded to the Board of Appeals. And so that is what they are appealing, and I'll go into a little more detail on that. And just for the record, Robert Shoup Surveying Company is the agent for the Betty McDonald Jones Revocable Trust, who's the applicant and owner. So this is the property. This is lot 3 of Oatland Plantation. They do have a private drive. This is Sinclair Plantation Drive that comes off of Lawrence Road that accesses the property. There's an existing single-family home located in this location. And this is the detached garage barn that they have applied for a variance. Our building department records show that this detached garage barn received a building permit in 2000. And so for about 20 years, this barn has been in place in this location. And the survey that is shown here shows that the barn is 5.2 feet from the side property line. And the code at the time in 2000 when it was built, the requirement was for a 7-foot setback. And in the survey that they recently did shows that that was not met at that time. It is a 5.2-foot setback. So they have been in violation, looks like, for about 20 years. So what they had done is they requested a variance from the code to allow the garage to have a 5.2-foot setback from the side property line. And often, I mean, the Board of Appeals is familiar with how this typically works. Is a lot of times is before an application is done, they realize there's some kind of hardship on the property, a reason they would need a variance, and that is when they apply for a variance from the Board of Appeals, and the Board of Appeals makes a decision on that. So in this case, this barn has been in place for 20 years, and they applied for the variance just at the end of last year in 2018. And the factors that the planning manager considered while reviewing it was that it has been there for 20 years. There are no plans to do anything at this time. The applicants had not communicated that they are planning to remodel, change the use, anything that really would trigger any kind of a building permit or need for a variance at this point in time. And so what I did was I looked back at the building permit file that was done in 2000, and it showed that it appeared that the building was supposed to be at 10 feet from the property line at that time. And as the survey showed, it ended up only being 5.2 feet. And so I looked at this, and in the criteria, let me go the other direction. So there is some criteria in section 1005.2, or I'm sorry, 0.3, that says no variance application will be accepted or processed unless the community development director or designee determines that it is reasonable, and there is a typo in the code actually. So determines that it is reasonably possible for the Board of Appeals to find that the application meets the terms of subsections A, B, C, and D of the standards set forth below. And so these are the actual standards that you're familiar with looking at when you do see a variance. But in the code, it does allow the administrative staff to review these criteria before determining whether it's forwarded to the Board of Appeals. So in reviewing this criteria, staff did not feel that there was any reason that a variance could be issued at this time. As I mentioned, there weren't any changes happening at this time. And so I, in turn, wrote a letter at the end of December to the applicant stating that I was not going to forward this application to the Board of Appeals because of these reasons, that I didn't feel that it was going to meet this criteria. The applicants then asked, is there anything that the county can issue to say, you know, we are okay, we are legally non-conforming? Is there anything that we can have that would state that this building can exist? And so I did issue another letter that's included in your packet that stated, you know, we don't recognize that this building as a legal non-conforming use because it was built in 2000 and the code was a 7-foot setback in 2000. However, we recognize this building has been in place for 20 years and it can stay as it is for now, but at the time that the applicant does make any changes or wants to get a building permit to remodel, at that point in time, they need to come before the Board of Appeals and request a variance to the code at that time. So a lot of it is just really a timing issue. So when those two letters were issued to the applicant, that is when they decided they truly do want, or they really want the variance. That's when they appealed the decision that I made, and that is what you're hearing today, is that appeal. So just to be clear kind of what our process is, and then I'll turn it over to the applicants to talk about what they're asking for. But what your motion would be today is to either affirm the planning manager's decision to not process the variance, and if that is the case, then the letters that I sent stand. If your decision is to reverse the planning manager's decision, which means you would like to hear this variance application before you, then what staff would then do is notice it for the March Board of Appeals meeting, and then you would have a public hearing to fully consider the variance just like you would any other variance applications. Another option is to modify the planning manager's decision if there's something that you would like to modify with that. And then you can also choose if you would like to postpone this decision to another meeting if there's additional information you want on that. So at this point, I will turn it over to the applicants to talk more about what they are looking to do, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, since this is a little different than you typically see, since we usually have the variances in front of you.
Any questions? Throw your mic on, Paul. All right, thank you, Steph.
Okay, sure. I'll leave the survey for the applicants to use.
Thank you. Mr. Shoup, is your cohort coming with you? Not yet?
I'll introduce him.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the record, my name is Bobby Shoup. I'm a land surveyor, and I am I'm the one that's supposed to be speaking for this case. So happy Valentine's Day to you and to the staff and the audience. And I really do appreciate you letting us come before you to hopefully explain what is we're requesting and see if there's any way we can move forward with this. Where I got involved You may know Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Betty Jones, that's Bill Jones Jr.'s wife. When she passed away, this land was put in a trust for the children. So it's the two sons and the daughter. And I don't think they mind me letting you know that they are wanting to sell this piece of property, is what they're trying to do. So they had me flag up the property corners where they could show it. And when I got through, Bill Jones III said, "Is everything good out here? Do we have a problem?" And I said, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you, yes, you have a problem, because my survey reveals that the barn that your daddy built is too close to the property line." And he said, "Okay, well, what do we do about that?" And I said, "Well, let's see if we can get an appeal to allow it to exist this way." So I suggested Bill's brother, Jim Jones, which is a part of the trustees. He lives next door to this. He was aware of it. And he's written a letter that says he's fine with this to be that close to his property line. So we made the application. The decision was made by staff. We spoke with some other people. They wrote us the second letter. But the truth is, the Joneses would prefer to not sell this piece of property to somebody that may have a problem in the future. They'd like to take care of it. So that's why we're appealing that decision today.
Well, you did not state that they wanted to sell. You know, I think if you'd have stated that, that's more of a reason to ask for the variance than just to, you know, where I read in here, I kind of figured that's what was up, that they wanted to sell it. And, you know, it was built wrong, but it was built when the codes existed.
Yes.
I don't really have a problem with the variance, but I think if you'd have stated the reason, you know, from what I read in here, there was no, you know, usually when somebody wants a variance, it's for they're going to sell it or they're living on it and it's out of, you know, compliance. So, you know, that's my 2 cents worth on it. I don't know about anybody else. Anybody got any questions?
Okay, even though I are a college graduate, I'm confused as to why, I don't know how I'm going to say this, if we go with the planning people, what are you going to do?
The solution then is the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
He goes to Board of Commissioners.
So this is, in effect, this is a de facto meeting regarding whether or not you can have the variance. If we say, yes, we support her, you're going to go to the county anyway. If we say we don't support her, you're going to have to file for a variance anyway, correct?
That's correct.
Please, okay. Hey, help me.
Yeah, no, I understand, and where I'm pausing is I'm not sure what my client will do if you deny our opportunity to ask for an appeal. I can't say for sure they're going to the county commission. I don't know that,
you know,
but that is a process that we could go through.
That is your next step.
Right, you're right.
Sorry, if I could just say something real quick.
Sure.
Excuse me. Just as a point of clarification, I did confirm this with our county attorney's office. If the Board of Appeals denies a variance, then the applicant can appeal that variance to the Board of Commissioners. But when we're talking about an appeal of an administrative decision, that appeal can only be appealed to Superior Court. There actually is not another county process. So if your decision tonight or today is to have the planning manager's decision stand, then their course of action would be appeal that decision to Superior Court. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Don't go away.
Hey, Well, Bobby, another solution was the brother next door could, you could jog the line a little bit to do it without a variance.
That is
I
correct.
mean, that's one way. The other way is the variance, really. There's only two options. And
Well,
I'd
we
hate
could-
to see it end up in Superior Court.
Oh,
That doesn't make any sense.
I completely agree, and I don't think, we don't want to be adversarial.
Well, the other side of it is too, if you've ever been back in there, it's not like a planned subdivision. I mean, there's 5 houses, maybe 6.
Yeah, that's
And-
correct.
And they're big lots,
Minimum 5 acres.
yeah.
This one's 11. But to the findings of the staff, well, first of all, let me thank them because they do a good job. We all do a good job, and we appreciate this opportunity. But I don't agree with her findings. I do think it's in exceptional conditions, just as the chairman just stated. These are large tracts of land. This is not Glen Haven. These are not little lots. So it is different.
There's not 4 houses on one lot.
No,
I know about those.
yeah. And of course, B, I supported that with A. C,
Well, the A, I really don't see where A would, really and truly, the way she's placed it, there's not really, it's just gonna be a decision we make. Because, what happened is whoever built it, they didn't measure off the line.
No, they
Because if they had it'd be 10 feet, like the plans, I understand the plans call for 10 feet.
that's right.
So this is one of those that, we either stand behind her or we let it go to a variance. And,
But I agree with you, they didn't, and I'm not trying to sell surveying, but they didn't get a surveyor out there. That's a very long line. They didn't know where the property line was.
well, in 2000, Mr. Jones probably really wasn't thinking about all that.
He probably
I want that barn there, so that's what happened.
And-
I don't really have any more questions.
Okay,
I think it's gonna be up to the 4 of us, whether we do or don't.
okay.
I don't really know that it hurts anything. I mean, it's not like East Beach where you got an air conditioner built in the setback.
Correct.
Y'all have any questions for Mr. Chu? Can you put those motions back up, Stephanie? Thank you, Bob.
What is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not negative, I'm just trying to figure out the, quote, planning manager decision. Are we in effect talking about 5.2 feet or whatever 20 years ago? And now it's come a cropper?
That, when we looked at what records were available for the construction of the house and the detached garage, what we found was a building permit, and then there was a plot plan that did not have it. It was limited in what was available. It didn't show the exact. I mean, it didn't have a survey. It was a plot plan, but it was an actual survey. But that was part of the 2000 building permit file. So what we don't have is a record of if the property had been inspected, if anyone had pulled tape to the property line. That information is just not available in the record. So we don't know what transpired. If anyone had gone out to the site after the structure was built. It's just as hard to know since it is 20 years old.
I understand the line items to a degree, but why is the planning manager now saying that the board should leave it here?
So that language is in our code. So it's what we've been finding, as you're aware of, is we've had applications coming before the board that are something similar to this, or they've maybe it's more recent, maybe they've already constructed something and now they're asking for forgiveness. And what we've heard from the board is that those are the type of applications you're uncomfortable seeing because they're coming to you in a very challenging situation. I mean, they're asking for forgiveness, that hey, this happened, now forgive what happened, and give us a variance. And so what we heard from the board was that that you're not as comfortable seeing those, and because we do have that language built in, that really administratively we should be doing that review and determining, does staff feel this can reasonably be granted a variance, and if we do, then we can forward it to the Board of Appeals for your decision on that. So that's what we did in this case. And we've done that with others as well. There's another one that did not get appealed, but the same letter was written to them, and they ended up amending. It was a newer construction, but they ended up amending their building and coming into compliance.
I think in the past also, these were done administratively. They didn't, this is the first one I've ever seen on this board.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So there were former staffers in the Community Development Department that did interpret a section of it's actually our non-conforming use section of our code. The interpretation of that, from my understanding, is that a project like this could be done as an administrative variance, which just stays at the administrative level, and then a letter is sent out to adjacent neighbors. If the adjacent neighbors don't have any concerns, then the variance is granted. Our interpretation of that section is that it actually has to be a legal nonconformity. And in this case, this was built in 2000. There were codes in the books. The administrative variance would have been appropriate if this structure was built in 1945. Then it would be a legal nonconforming structure, and then you could use that administrative variance section. So that's the difference in our interpretation from how it was done in the past.
Exactly.
So if we overturn the decision of the planning manager, then it will go back to a zoning, it comes to the board?
So if you, I'm sorry, your question, if you overturn the decision?
Yes.
Yes. If you overturn the decision, then staff will then notice it for a public hearing before the board as a variance application at your March meeting. So you will consider the variance and consider all the factors like you do other applications for variances.
So a part of this administrative hearing that we're having has to do with our group's concern about forgiving everything because it's already there, all those, okay.
In part, yes.
Yes.
So we're applauding the fact that, I'm applauding the fact that at least somebody's looking at it and making some kind of decision. So, thank you.
Sure.
We lost the...
Yeah, this may be a technical... We've had some technical issues with the projector lately.
So Stephanie, regardless of what we do, that barn is still going to be in the
barn's
setback.
still going to be there.
It's still going to be there.
Right.
The two solutions are the variance or move the property line.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's about it.
so
I don't think we're going to tear the barn down.
what do y'all think? The motions are on page 3. Page 3 in the bottom of page 3. That next one, and the top of page 4 finishes.
Do you see it in your
We
in your
got 'em,
staff
we got 'em.
report? Okay, thank you.
I have another question. If we don't support your decision, if we support your decision and the result then is, no, I'm confused. If we do not support your position, then they file for what we normally hear. And if we then at that point don't approve the variance, then it goes to the county and it circumvents circuit court, but it's still the same issue that it's been there 20 years, been there, done that, don't want to do it again, right?
Right, that would be the process. So if you all overturn my decision, we'll notice it for the variance. You know, if after considering the variance in March, you all deny the variance, then the applicants do have the option to appeal that denial to the Board of Commissioners. So that would stay within the county. So
Okay.
yeah, that's how that process
Okay,
would work.
thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we need to fool around with that nonsense.
Somebody throw a motion.
Now, I'm going to give you the motion right now. I move to reverse the planning manager's decision and direct staff to notice the variance application for the next available Board of Appeals meeting. That barn is not going to come down.
Second. All in favor? Mr. Williams?
And I will comment, Stephanie did a great job on what you did in going back and finding it. I think that's admirable. It's just that this is just so nitpicking stuff that we deal with on variances. It's not your fault, it's not their fault.
You know, if this were built in the last 5 years, I'd probably say no. But I mean, it's 20
Yep.
years old. and
Yeah, it's that
Sure.
far away.
I don't,
Yeah. So it's not a reflection on what you did. It's
we
just
get to
that.
see you next month,
Yeah.
Mr. Shoup.
Yeah.
And like you, I appreciate what our staff does.
Yeah, well, we have been on them about,
Oh, yeah.
forgiveness. You know, we had, off the record, we had one in the little subdivision next to the Catholic Church where you guys had done the survey work. The curve in the road got missed, and there was like 2 foot 3 inches in the setback. You guys might not have been on. But you know, you gonna make them tear the house down? I mean, it's gotta be a point in time. I wonder if, you know, before the slab's poured, does somebody pull a tape and check? You know, I mean, it's almost getting to the point where you're gonna have to have a survey before you ever get your plans.
And they have a new process where that is being looked at more.
Yeah, I think we talked about that already.
Are requiring foundations that show, and that's, you're absolutely right, that's the way.
That'll stop a lot of this.
Yeah.
Other communities do require a survey, and I have a younger partner, that's what he thinks that we should be doing for all of them. And that takes it out of there, it's in black and white, and if the builder's wrong, let the surveyor and the builder argue that.
Yeah, then those really are we're not gonna let those go anymore, I don't think.
I agree with
This
Chairman.
is, when I saw this one, I was like, I hate to go against her, because she's done what we asked her to do. But in the same note, if this were in Glen Haven or somewhere, I'd probably say no.
Yeah. It's 20 years too. That's the kicker. But I think Stephanie, I'm sure, has talked to a lot of contractors since we've been on her case about this stuff. And one day, and I don't know when, one day, we're gonna make that person tear it down and the contractor foot the bill for redoing it in the property. So what about our building people? What about our inspectors, Stephanie? Are they alert now to what we're after?
Yeah, they are.
They need to know that, right? Okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions within the department, and
You mean they've been
yeah.
to prayer? They've been to prayer meeting? Is that it? Okay.
Yes, I know our building division is having that conversation with everyone because we want to catch stuff as early as possible and be as exact as possible. So
It was, yes, it was,
Thank you.
everybody. You know, and your reason for the variance is gonna be they wanna sell the property. You know, that should have been in this time. Okay, thank you. We gotta pick officers again.
Dismissed.
All right, no, we gotta elect officers. Anybody want this job?
No, you got it. Yeah.
All right, I need a motion. Need a motion for a chairman, vice chairman, and Janet will be the recording secretary. I need chairman, vice chairman, and Janet will be the recording secretary. And we've got to vote on all three. So does anybody want to do anything? Yeah, you can vote, I mean, but your time's up, I understand that. Well, y'all are stuck till they replace you, I think. Isn't that the way that works? Yeah, until you're replaced. I'm sorry. So, I'm looking for a chairman, vice chairman, and recording secretary.
Okay, and I move that there be no change, that the current office holders continue.
Are you vice now?
No, I'm not. Yes.
Paul is. Yeah. So we'll move it to Philip, since you're coming off.
Oh, he's
Okay.
coming off.
Yeah, so it'll be me chairman,
That's right, you were off. Yeah.
me chairman,
So I'll do vice.
Philip vice,
Yeah.
and you recording secretary.
Be chairman vice.
So I can't make that motion, one of y'all gotta do it, or I gotta pass the gavel. Okay. All right, so all in favor? It's unanimous. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Hey, I hated to do that to y'all on this one, but, you know, it's,
It was just so old, Stephanie, it really.
No, I totally, yeah, it's nothing personal.
And I'll tell you,
yeah. Hey, I need to read one thing for the record, please. This is to me. Mrs. Keller, please accept my letter of explanation for my absence. My husband had a medical emergency in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He remains in the hospital there to date. I would like to continue my membership as a zoning board member. If further explanation is required, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Is Mrs. Betty Tyson Keller. So I guess we'll excuse her until she can get back. But that does put us real short if we don't come up with some folks real quick. And now, Janet used to do that, but I understand it's done through the clerk's office now.
To have an alternative?
We need to
Position.
post it. We need,
we need an alternative.
Okay.
Turn it.
So they have alternates, yes, sorry, yeah, alternates. Okay.
we
So we have
need-
had that in the past, but not currently? Okay.
and we actually need two now. So we have two coming off. Because then really and truly,
Yeah.
if they decide, they're really on until they're off. But if they decide they want to quit, I guess they really could.
Yeah, we'll talk
And
about that.
then we won't have a
yeah.
quorum, so we've got to do
Exactly.
something fairly,
Yeah, since everything you do have are public hearings and have a lot of notice, it's really important that we can keep those quorums at our meetings. So, yeah, we'll talk about seeing what we can do to,
yeah, I was gonna get with Pam next week about it anyway.
okay.
because-
Well,
Yeah, that'd be
Stephanie,
great.
since these two gentlemen are gonna be coming off, have you put notices out yet?
No, that's what we were talking about.
Well, I thought you were just talking about Betty.
No, we're talking
Okay, go
about,
and put the all of them.
Miss Keller's gonna stay on.
Yeah, I know she is.
When did the terms end? Did you say?
March.
I think March.
Okay.
Mr. Fisher ends in March, and Mr. Williams ends in June,
Okay.
June 30th.
June.
Okay.
You thought you were off quicker than that, didn't you?
All right. Thank you all.